Welcome to So Your Parents Are Old from Campside Media, and I am Vanessa Grigoriadis. A lot of people who find themselves taking care of an old or sick loved one, like myself, would rather be doing almost anything else sometimes. There can be a lot of resentment, negative feelings, mainly because you don't really want to go to somebody else's doctor appointments. You'd rather maybe work in the career you love or go to a hot yoga class. But for some people, it is a calling, or if not a calling, at least gives a lot of meaning to their lives. Kris McCabe has been a caregiver for her grandmother for 8 years. And she said before she did that, she did not give an F about life. Caring for her grandmother led her to get sober, and it helped her find meaning and joy. So she has been sharing her journey, as they say in the social media world, under the social media handle at Life with Grams. So welcome, Kris.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on to share your experience. You are a carefluencer. I think it's fair to say that. What do you think of when I use that word?
In the beginning, I think it took me some time to really hone in on that word, care influencer, because I really just felt like a girl who was sharing her lived experience. I don't feel like I don't have a background in caregiving. I don't have a degree in caregiving. So to influence people can sometimes be a little tricky. But with all of the feedback I've received over the last couple of years from people whose lives I've helped, I own that title now. I'm proud to be a care influencer.
How old are you? And tell us where you are in the
Yeah, I am
world.
currently 38 years old and we reside in Chicago, Illinois.
Okay, so you show that caregiving, even for somebody with dementia, doesn't have to be miserable because you have fun with it. Like, when do you, I know in your story, which I've read about now, you say it gave you a lot of meaning and you find the fun in it. But, like, when did that start? Was there a time where it was not as joyful?
I think with everything in life, there's a balance. There's good and bad to almost all areas of life. And for me, I'm just really fortunate that my grandma has always been the person in my life to bring that to me. I was a teenager who had some issues, and my grandma was always my safe haven. She was always the person pushing me to want more, to do more. So when I became her caregiver, I didn't really look at it at first as like this burden of, oh, I have to take care of grandma. It was more of a, how can I help grandma enjoy the end of her life? How can I help grandma feel fulfilled in these last few years of her life? And especially with a disease like dementia, I saw the way that she cared for her mom, and I just didn't want it to be all gloom and doom. So I just knew that I wanted to have a more positive input in this experience.
So you saw the way she cared for her mom, your great grandmother. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was 16 years old and I was actually living with my grandma at the time. I moved in with her when I was a sophomore in high school. And my great grandma was in a nursing home, and my grandma went there every day and just tried to give her the best care that she could. But there was so many unknowns and so many things we didn't understand about the disease and about getting older. So that really was kind of an influence on me to make sure that my grandma thrived in these later years.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of kid were you?
I was a wild child. I definitely had my fun, and my grandma was always the one. True unconditional love. I could do no wrong. There was no conditions for my grandma. She was always there supporting me no matter what. And I think that really kind of helped me grow into the person I am today, knowing that she always had my back no matter what. And it really made for a more fun adventure in these later caregiving years.
So when you first started caring for her, what did your life look like?
So yeah, I won't forget this. I was 29 years old. I was a bartender and I was a portrait studio photographer, and I was just flying by the seat of my pants, as they say. I was going out partying almost every night, and I didn't really have a sense of purpose. I was just kind of living life to the fullest. A few years before I started taking care of my grandma, I experienced a death in my life that really changed the way I kind of wanted to continue living. It was someone very close to me. And so I kind of lost that motivation and that drive for a few years. And I was just kind of having fun, didn't care. Wherever life took me, it took me. And then I went out to eat with my friend Samantha, and she was like, you always talk about your grandma. Everyone our age is settling down, having kids. You don't seem like that kind of person. Why don't you take care of your grandma? And I was like, this girl is crazy, but I think that might be able to work. So I called my sister and my mom the next day, and I was like, hey, I just think grandma deserves more in these last few years. I don't want to see her kind of wither away in that sense. And I just wanted to give her the joy that I knew that she wanted. And she always said, Kris, if anything in life, I just want to grow old and be happy with the people that I love. And so I'm glad I'm able to provide that for her.
So how did it work on a practical level? Like, what did you do?
Whew, it's a learning curve. Because like I said, I really had no idea what I was doing. I just knew that I wanted my grandma in a safer, better environment. And so it was all learn as you go, trial and error. I really tried to focus on my grandma more so than her disease. I always say that my grandma is a person living with dementia, but she is not dementia. I will not let that hold her in place. So it really was just kind of going with the flow and figuring it out. I am so grateful to social media because that's really where I started to learn about caregiving and the world of elder care. And I started to learn about how to provide a level of care that people with dementia need.
So, okay, so you were like a big poster before this. Did you do a lot of social media, or is this something that started because you felt like sort of isolated? So you were like, hey, I'm going to show people what's going on because nobody else is watching around here except for my grandma?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a millennial and I definitely loved sharing my life on the internet, but for like my friends and coworkers, I never tried to expand and share with the masses. This happened very serendipitously. I had a private Instagram account where I was constantly posting photos of me and my grandma out in Chicago, going to dinner, going to the Bean, seeing a show. And my friends were like, girl, you need to just make your own account because your whole page has turned into your grandma. And I was like, that's actually a pretty good idea. So I was like, you know what, let's just share our adventures and see what comes from it. So I created Life with Grams, and truly almost instantly it created a community of fellow caregivers and people who needed to be recognized and feel seen.
So tell me about like that night when you started to post, and what were the first messages that came in?
Yeah, I remember my first post was just a little introduction into who my grandma was, and will always be to me, a fiery Italian New Yorker. And then I posted a little about myself, and I just shared that I took my grandma out of the nursing home a few months prior, and we're just trying to navigate this life living with Alzheimer's disease. And I had messages and DMs instantly from people saying, my mom has dementia. I'm going on this journey as well. Mm-hmm. It's so isolating and lonely. I love to see other people who are doing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. And so it just grew from there?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know how we got to where we are today, truly, with 600,000 followers on TikTok. But it was just little by little every day posting what we were going through. And I'm not shy. I share the good, the bad, the ugly. I was trying to show people what my lived experience was, as well as my grandma's lived experience. And yeah, it just day by day, we just found more people who needed to be seen and needed to feel heard. And we just kept creating more and more space for these people to be seen.
So have you made friends with some people? Like, what are your relationships like with the people that you've connected with?
So sorry for talking over you. I have shared our life now on Instagram since 2017. We've been on TikTok since 2021. And I am so beyond grateful for the friendships I've made. I've actually got to meet up now with probably over 25 people I've met through Instagram and TikTok. I have a great caregiver community of other fellow caregivers that we just connect. We have group chats and we do meetings and support groups together. We've attended seminars together. We really have created a community that goes outside of the social media world. We are actually friends now, and I'm just so grateful because I don't think a lot of people realize how isolating being a caregiver is. Even if I have, a caregiver to come in and take care of my grandma and give me a night out, I still am devoted to my grandma. My energies are focused on my grandma. And so connecting with people who get that and understand it in a different way has been a lifeline that I didn't know I needed, but I know that I needed it now. And it just really has been such a blessing to connect with people.
Therapy group.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that we have all created real friendships and we've been able to meet up. I've got to meet people from coast to coast, really. I've met some friends in New York and all the way to California, and we are really building a real community. It's goes further than social media, further than TikTok and Instagram. We are really supporting one another. Over the last couple of years, we've had some losses and we've had some people deal with personal issues, and we all show up for one another. I think having caregiver friends is a lifeline that is so needed because you truly need people who understand what you're going through without judgment.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely true. It's really hard because, if people don't know, it's just one of these things that you can't understand unless you're in it, you know? So are you happy? Do you feel like your life is more fulfilled or?
I am really happy. Looking back to 8 years ago, before I was my grandma's caregiver, I don't think I was as fulfilled as I am today. I had the freedom and I had whatever I wanted to do readily available to me, but I just didn't care. It was really slowing down and valuing life for a different reason. And I think being my grandma's caregiver taught me that. It taught me what really matters. And for me, that's love and connection and community. There is bad in life. There's good to bad to everything. And so I think for me personally, focusing on the positives and really focusing on that joy helps me through the hard times. I'm not saying that hard times aren't there. I just have learned how to coexist and create the joy that I need to keep going. So yeah, I would say right now in this time of my life, I'm very happy. I'm very fulfilled. I'm grateful for the love that my grandma and I share, and I'm so thankful for all the friends I've met along the way.
So you stopped drinking, is that right?
I did. I was a big drinker, bartender. We love to party. And I noticed the first few years I was taking care of my grandma, I was still bartending. I had a caregiver come and stay with her while I was at work. And it just was not working out for me. I noticed I was lethargic and tired and cranky, and all of the negatives were really being pushed to the forefront as I was dealing with caregiver burnout, trying to balance living and having fun and not caring while caring for my grandma. And it just really made me recognize what I needed to be a happy person. I think before my grandma's caregiver, I was using substances and alcohol to try to find the joy. And being my grandma's caregiver made me realize that I can create the joy. So I've been sober now for almost 5 years. I feel healthier and more clear in my brain than I ever have. And I can have fun regardless. I've learned new ways to bring joy and have fun.
So you've surprised yourself, basically.
Completely
you surprised yourself.
And my whole family too, because I was always the wild one. People cannot understand. I'm the youngest of 3 girls. My mom and my sisters just see me in a whole new light as my grandma's caregiver because I really have changed the way I was living.
Yeah, I guess it's about patience and intentionality and getting quiet and you almost have to meditate your way through this experience to a certain degree, it's, yeah, it's this long, long, long goodbye. And also, I mean, something I think about is I like to fix things. Like I'm one of those people who's like, it's broken, let me fix it. It's broken, let me fix it. And it's really tough to be like, this person's getting worse and there's actually nothing I can do about it.
Oh, I had
How
to
do you
deal
deal
with
with
that
that? Yeah.
because I think in the beginning I was praised so much for the care I was providing for my grandma. And then when my grandma started to decline and get sicker, I put that weight on my shoulders as if there was something I should be doing to save her in a way or to help her more. But with a disease like dementia, it's progressive and it's only going to get worse. And you could be the best caregiver in the world, and your loved one is still going to fall, fail, progress, and eventually, unfortunately, die from this disease. So it's a lot.
Yeah, it's hard to not just be like, well, the reason that she's getting worse is because I haven't done X and like blah, 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 blah. And, then you're in like this world of like this guilt spiral. Like, how do you stop that guilt and shame spiral?
Yeah, I always say that mindfulness is a practice that we all can cultivate. It really takes time and practice, but when you get in control of your brain and you work on that mindfulness, you can put yourself in the more present moment. And then it can help in those situations where it feels like all doom and gloom.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting thing that a lot of people get into meditation later in their lives because it probably is because they're dealing with a lot of like disease and death around the people that they know and they need to like calm themselves down.
Definitely.
But yeah, I mean, that particular disease, dementia, is really, can really test, I mean, it tests the people's patience around the person, that they're caring for.
I would say I love
So,
my grandma so much, but she still drives me nuts. So I've really kind of had to separate my grandma from dementia. I even made like a little nickname. I call my grandma's dementia Linda. So when she starts to get on my nerves and frustrate me, I don't ever want to take out my anger or my frustrations in front of my grandma. So I'm just like, oh, Linda, not today. I can't deal with you today, Linda. And it's just been a way for me to help kind of process those feelings because dementia does test your patience no matter how much you love your person.
yeah, that's a great way of putting it, though, because it is the disease and not the person. I mean, I definitely have had this experience of my mom being like, she's back to being the nice mom that I remember because there were years where that wasn't like happening, which is pretty meaningful to have, at least have had that experience of being like, okay, this is the person that was wonderful to me. So, I mean, what are the resources that are available to you and other people in your situation? I mean, I always like to say, like, not really any, like, but what have you found?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's hard, but building community has been the most helpful for me. I know, like, depending on what kind of dementia that the person has, the Alzheimer's Association, they do have some pretty good resources. They have local and online support groups. I'm a big fan of Hilarity for Charity, which is Seth Rogen's organization. They have amazing community lounges and different educational tools to help people understand this disease. But sharing our stories and letting other people in on this experience is a great way to gain support and to find new resources. There are different things locally depending on where you live. So I know new caregivers how overwhelming it can feel to just find some sort of something. And the doctors, don't even get me started. That's a whole runaround. There's no real pamphlet or anything that's going to guide your way. It is kind of up to you. But that's why social media has been such a blessing. We're able to find people and find educators now, dementia experts, caregivers who all can lend their lived experience and help you along the way.
So, what should the government be doing, though?
Well, the government should definitely be helping give caregivers paid caregivers in all states, not just some of them. And the government should really be getting behind funding diseases so we can learn more about them. I really feel like dementia has been, in the last 5 years, talked about so much more, and we're learning so much more about these diseases. Dementia is not one disease, it's hundreds of diseases. It's an umbrella term. So we need funding in all areas to educate people. And as far as like elder care, we need more resources and more funding for our elders. What's happening is only going to get so much worse. The baby boomers are getting older, and as we know, the older that you get, the more care you will need. So yeah, the government needs to step up.
So what is the situation in Illinois? Like, can you get paid as a caregiver, like $6,000 a year or something like that? Or is it just nothing?
No, Illinois does have a decent program. There are, the fine lines and the little red tape and the things like that. But Illinois and California, I have heard, are two of the better states to live in to get paid for a family caregiver. There is still runaround. It took me years to get a yes. You have to keep trying and keep pushing. If you're out there and you're trying, just know that they're going to try to say no. They're going to try to make you run around and get exhausted so they can't pay you. But if you qualify, you have to do everything you can to make sure that they're giving you what you deserve. And yeah, it's a lot.
So what kind of situation do you want when you get old and if you need some help?
I would love to be cared for the way that I care for my grandma and keep it as quote unquote normal as possible. I just want love in my life. I think everybody deserves to be loved, however that looks for you. I just would never want to feel lonely and isolated. So when I get older, I would hope that there's someone out there who loves me the way I love my grandma. I definitely wouldn't want to burden anybody. So that's another thing. I don't think anyone should feel that they have to take care of somebody. I'm big on that. Everyone has to do what's best for their own life. So I would never want to burden someone. But if someone can find the joy and the happiness that I have found taking care of my grandma, taking care of me, I would be so blessed. But I would just want to make sure that the people who are taking care of me are also taken care of. I dealt with caregiver burnout, and I did end up in a mental hospital in 2021 for a few weeks because I just didn't know what else I should be doing or could be doing, and I didn't feel supported at the time. So I just want all caregivers to know you are valued and you are seen and you deserve to be loved the way you love your person with dementia.
Was this before you started going on social media?
No, I was on social media at the time. I'm very open and honest. I've dealt with mental illness struggles since I was a teenager. And sometimes when we push through and keep focusing on other people, we take the back burner, and it gets to a point sometimes where it should never have gotten. I was so burnt out, I couldn't even recognize myself. So
Yeah.
I'm grateful for my family for stepping in during that time and saying, hey, you matter too, and we don't want to see you like this. And after that trip, I learned about self-care. I learned about delegating duties because I am like a helicopter caregiver. I'm the one who always wants to be doing for my grandma because I feel I know best. But you have to kind of sometimes let people step in and take over, regardless of their level of care. You need time for yourself, and you need to feel like a person too.
So how do you organize all that? You've seen those apps, right, that people are making now where instead of
So
you
many.
having to be the one that says like, hey, can you pick up the well, I guess there's not dry cleaning. Can you pick up the groceries? Then like you just put it in the app, like somebody needs to pick up the groceries. And then like, all the sisters and brothers, somebody says like, I'll do it. Hopefully once somebody says I'll do it.
But that's so needed to delegate. I think in my lived experience, my family didn't know where they fit in because not everyone is a hands-on caregiver. My mom gets very anxious. She's not as good hands-on with my grandma, but my mom is great organizationally. So my mom will make all the appointments and do all of the paperwork and things like that. And that is helpful to me and my grandma. My sister loves to cook. She'll come and bring dinner by every once in a while. Hey, Kris, I'm doing the laundry. Let me help you with your laundry. little things can really help and make a big difference on the sole caregiver. And when you have a community of caregivers and a community of people who care for one another, that I think is ideal. You got to care for each other.
So your grandma being late stage and on hospice, she must have a lot of care that's like free care, people coming to the house. Like, what is she getting for being on hospice? Or wait, maybe you can only be on hospice for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, so actually, we've been on hospice. We've graduated before, and then we were reinstated. With a
Okay.
disease like dementia, it is kind of hard, but because she is at the stage where she's not really going to get any better, she's only going to get worse, we have requalified to stay on hospice, and hospice provides nurse, a CNA. They have different therapies depending on your hospice agency. So you can get, people to come in and play music, or sometimes they'll have dog therapy. And it is very helpful. Hospice also offers respite services, which is great for the caregiver. So if I wanted, I could put my grandma in a respite home for 5 days and I can get 5 full days of complete care. So I definitely want people to utilize hospice and palliative care early on in dementia. A lot of people hear hospice and they think it's the end. It doesn't have to be for a disease like dementia. It can actually be very helpful and build your community further with getting those kinds of resources.
When can you I thought you could only qualify for hospice if death is like 6 months away or something along those
So
lines.
with dementia, that is a little tricky because there is no one to say that that's how long they're going to live. That's why they get reevaluated. You have to be losing weight, and there are certain check marks that the hospice administrative nurse will come in and just make sure, is their quality of life diminishing, is they're not eating as much. So there are certain criteria that allows you to stay on hospice longer than a traditional disease that's terminal.
So, but the stuff that you have posted from your grandma when you're taking her like traveling and stuff, is that older stuff? Like, are you still
No.
able to take her? Really? You're still taking her out? Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot harder these days. Her body is just getting weaker. She doesn't get in and out of the car as easily. And we have a wheelchair now for when we go places, we'll wheel her instead of having her walk. But that's what brings my grandma joy. She's always been a go-getter. She loved being out and about. And so I continue to try. Just in July, we did a big trip. We went to Myrtle Beach and spent some time with my mom. And then we drove up the coast and we went to go visit our old house in New York, and we saw some friends there. And now we're back in Chicago, and we just make it work however we can. We have obviously slowed down a little bit. We're not going out every day like we used to. I used to try to get my grandma out of the house daily. And now maybe it's 2 or 3 times a week, but we just try to keep it as normal as possible.
So, do you have lives or something that people can like subscribe? They can subscribe to your TikTok or subscribe to your Instagram, but like, are there any other things that people could check out if they want to,
Yeah, we
I
have a
don't know.
website, lifewithgrams.info. It has all information about me and my grams and different podcasts and things I've been on. We go live on TikTok every morning for breakfast. We've been going live every day since July of 2021. You can always reach out to me via email. I love connecting with other caregivers. And yeah.
So what advice would you have for caregivers who are not going to like blow up on social media necessarily like you? Like what are like the top 3 things that you would give as advice?
Advice to caregivers, the one is to find your community. You don't have to be popular or famous or an influencer, but just putting yourself out there and finding like-minded individuals to help you along this journey, joining support groups and getting educated. I think knowledge is power, and I think you would be doing yourself a disservice if you didn't learn and educate yourself about the disease that your loved one has. And remembering that you're a person too. Don't put everybody ahead of you. Remember that you deserve love and care as well. And yeah, you have to keep on keeping on and try your best to fight through and find the joy.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Kris McCabe. Everybody can check out all her various platforms, and we'll have links to them in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for coming on So Your Parents Are Old.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.